Have you ever started at a table with the words, "Hi, I'm playing a control deck today"? Well, not many players have, but if you have, you were probably met with a lot of complaints and people reaching out for the strongest deck to match your poison. But playing control and commander is actually quite hard, and making a fun control deck is almost impossible. Well, yeah, almost, because there are ways to actively threaten the board, making memorable moments, and still having a lot of fun while playing control. To understand this concept, we need to know what control means, what makes for a good control deck, and what makes for fun games in Commander. We have noticed that most people watching our videos haven't subscribed yet. It only takes one click. You will see all our latest videos helping you build your deck, or just relaxing with our gameplay videos. If you have subscribed, thank you very much. A control deck lives to control the pace of the game. The typical control deck is filled with single targeted removal and counterspells. After controlling the early threats, a control deck has a lot of card draw or high-end cards to finish off the game. Another way to win with control deck is just by being more efficient. When your opponent plays a creature and you counter it, the board state hasn't really changed. They're both just down one card. Except in Commander you have 3 opponents, and only one opponent and you lost a card. The other opponents didn't lose anything, so you're actually down on 2 cards at the moment. But if you play board wipe, you only lose 1 card, and your opponents lose a lot of creatures, gaining you a lot of card advantage. So a good control deck would make sure not only one opponent, but all 3 of your opponents are put back. That's why Commander sees cards like Mono Black Target or an Azorius Stacks deck that make sure all of your opponents need to pay extra mana. Problem here is that these decks don't just hold your opponents back, they completely shut them down. And after shutting them down, they don't always have the answer to closing the game, because they spend a lot of cards to shut the opponents down. So we also need a lot of card draw, ramp, and whenever we play the counter spells, we need to gain something. This is why we need to know what most people find fun in Commander. This way we can still let them do the thing they wanted to do and just control a little bit, so we both get to have fun and we can still win. Having fun in Commander is obviously different for everyone at the table, because we all have different intentions. An elf ball deck just wants to see 10 elves on the board, and a 5-color Rambles deck likes to cast a Joda. But what all these decks and these players have in common is that they want to see their deck see what they designed it to do. Both decks are quite threatening, but if they do not get to do at least a bit of their deck, the player will just see this game as a waste of time and will not invite you again. So another way we can put this is the amount of challenge you bring to a table. Playing against a dragon deck could be quite fun, because you know, just the first few turns they're not gonna do as much. They have big creatures that cost a lot of mana, but if you give them too much time, they would just fly over you and burn your house and your wife in it down. But if your opponents find ways to cheat those dragons on turn 2, instead of turn 5, they're putting too much challenge on the board, and your opponents are not gonna like that as well. The same needs to be the case with control. Shutting everything down will put too much challenge on the table, but only shutting a few of your opponent's cards down and not actively putting threats on the board means you're not putting enough of a challenge. So just the right amount could be a AC deck that gets a lot of ramp and a lot of card draw, and with this card draw it will want to put more lands on the deck so they can build a board state with Scud Swarm or Rampaging Bailiffs. The control element is just there to take out some of their creatures and protecting our own board state. This way you are actively threatening the board, not just saying no to your opponents, but also making sure you have answers and can shut down the game. I remember my first time playing Lord of the Nazgûl. I said, hey guys, I built a control deck. The entire energy of the table went down. Game 1 they were just destroying my commander time and time again. I didn't really get to do anything except for cast my commander and counter a few spells. On game 2, I am a control player. I built this deck. What am I gonna do? I'm just gonna play it again. They felt a little pity. I got to cast my commander. It stuck to the board for a few rounds. Eventually I got to 9 Nazgûls, so I did my thing. I let my opponents do their thing as well. I didn't kill their commander, I didn't make all their ramp and card draw go away. Just at the point where I thought, okay, they are more of a threat than I am at the moment. That's when I removed things, but I didn't just say no to everything and completely wipe the board time and time again. Eventually I did win it. They did say that they like my deck, and that was a win for me that day. Another big complaint for playing Control is dragging the game on for way too long. For example, a Stasis, one of the most salty cards in Commander, can just completely shut down a game, not giving you much more advantage than your opponent, especially if you're playing it on turn 2 and do not have a full board. This just makes sure no one gets to play anything and no one gets to have any fun, basically. That's why the AC is such a good example. You're not just saying no, but you're also putting a threat on the table and making sure the game won't drag on for too long. Another thing I would like to give you is just don't play stacks, or at least not too much of it. Stacks, hate bear pieces, they are not the place for a casual Commander game. Play them in Modern, play them in Vintage, in CDH, or at least when you do bring a stack to the table, make sure everyone at the table knows what's up and knows what kind of game they're going to play. The biggest upside of playing Control, what people tend to forget when they think of a Control deck, is the politics element it brings to the board. Having a Control deck on the table not just means anti-fun, it means having more answers. If there is a Blood Moon on the table, destroy it, and your opponents will thank you for it. If there is a Geisha being cast, you can say no right away, or you can just say, hey buddy, I'm a Control deck, I've got answers. Maybe just swing it to Kevin over there. Not using Control aggressively or annoyingly, just get you favors instead of more opponents. Using it whenever it gives you advantage as well. Make sure you get to do a lot of stuff, your opponent gets to do a lot of stuff as well, and you will have a fun game of Commander while playing Control. So you want to build a Control deck? I applaud you. You will use the removal sparingly, gaining allies instead of enemies. You are a casual player, so you won't play stacks or too many hate bear pieces, and you will make sure to threaten the board actively instead of just saying no and draw go, even if it means to mulligan the perfect hand that contains 2 board wipes. I hope I was able to convince you that Control decks are not just saying about no. Control also means that when one player is ahead, so let's say someone has a Sol Ring and an Arcane Signet and a Phyrexian Arena, making sure they have a lot of mana, a lot of card draw, and they're just gonna win by turn 5. The Control deck can say no, or I'll remove that, just to make sure the other players at the table have a chance as well. So it doesn't just create those moments of, man, I don't like this game because you're countering all my spells. It creates moments of, wow, you played a board wipe, you did all your things, I really like this game. This way it adds depth and a lot of tension as well, because there's always someone at the table who can say no or remove the pieces that are really threatening to the rest of the board. What's your experience with Control decks? Are there players at your table that really add depth, or do they just counter your Sol Ring whenever they feel like it? Drop a comment below. I can share that we have a group of mostly casual players. We have a friend called Sage that always plays Rune, and whenever he plays it, we just have a lot of fun because, you know, things can be taken away, things can be removed. There's just that depth to the game. If you're looking to improve your deck building skills, we've got a series of that as well. Check them down below. For now, I would like to thank you for your time and love to see you next time. Meh.